It is 6:02. I will now call to order the November 14th, 2016 meeting of the East Hampton Conservation Commission. The meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns that are non-agenda items? Okay, being none, we're going to move on to the first public hearing. A notice of intent filed by Cumberland Farms, Inc., Framingham, Massachusetts, for the construction of the Cumberland Farms facility at 221 Northampton Street, map 114, lot 34, in the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Assume right here it's okay?
Sure. If you could introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, who needs the green cards?
Thank you.
No? Awesome.
Sure.
Very well, good evening. For the record, Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, 352 Turnpike Road in Southborough, Mass. What I'd like to do is quickly run through the project and why Cumberland Farms is before the commission this evening. I'm sure members of the commission and maybe members of the audience are very familiar with the existing piece of land in question. It's approximately 6.7 acre vacant piece of land right now on the east side of Northampton Street. The official address is 221 Northampton Street, and the property, from what we understand, was at one point developed as a single-family residence that has since been raised. And as mentioned, the site is basically vacant, and the area being considered by Cumberland Farms is on the north side of that piece, almost immediately adjacent to the East Hampton Savings Bank building. If lucky enough to obtain all the approvals, and this is the first step of many, Cumberland Farms is seeking to redevelop the piece of land with a 4,786 square foot Cumberland Farms convenience store, basically located in the northeast corner of the property. The convenience store would be serviced by 35 parking spaces. There are a handful of parking spaces across the front of the store, and then the remaining majority portion of the parking is off to the south, or the right side if you're facing the building from Northampton Street. The store would also be serviced by 6 multi-product gasoline dispensers located between the building and Northampton Street, which, because these dispensers can fuel one car on either side, there would be a maximum for 12 cars to be fueling at any one given time if the site was operating at full capacity. Those dispensers would be serviced by 2 20,000-gallon underground fuel tanks located on the southern portion of the development. And the site, if approved, would be accessed by 2 new full movement curb cuts along Northampton Street, one located here and here, or on the north and south sides of the site. The Northampton Street, as you know, is Mass Highway maintained, so in addition to local approvals, we'd also need a curb cut approval from Mass DOT should we get to that point. The reason we are in front of the Conservation Commission is because along the north side, just off the limits of the property, or the northern property boundary, and then a very small area located in the extreme northeast corner of the property, was a 100-foot, or I'm sorry, was a bordering vegetated wetland. We would have originally been given information that was Army Corps of Engineer jurisdiction, but we had our wetland scientists go out. He walked the site. He made the determination that it's a BVW with a 100-foot buffer zone associated with it, which you can see is located in this area here on the rendering. There is a finger of the wetland that runs along the property to the east as well, so that buffer extends along the eastern edge of the property. All of the work that's being considered with this development would take place in the buffer zone. There is no proposal to modify any of the wetland area itself. I think at our nearest point, we are about 15 feet from the, I'm sorry, it's about 25 feet from the wetland itself. And as you can see from the rendering, Cumberland Farms has taken steps to basically keep the development as far as they can from the wetland area, and they've separated the proposed development from the wetland area with some fairly large swaths of green space. The last thing I'd like to mention relative to the development is stormwater management. I think knowing that the site is also within the Barnes aquifer, I'm sure stormwater management is a particular concern to the commission. And if you've had an opportunity to review the information that was submitted, we've taken great steps in making what we consider improvements not only to the quantity of stormwater exiting the property, but the quality as well. Right now, under the existing condition, basically everything sheet flows across what is a fairly degraded portion of the site right now. At one point, we've been told that site was used as storage for some construction materials that DOT used as part of a bridge replacement project. So this area of the site right now, it's got some gravel, it's got some dirt. It's really not landscaped, and what you have is any stormwater generated on the site is basically sheet flowing unchecked and untreated into the wetland area located off to the north and east side of the site. Under the proposed condition, all of the runoff generated from any impervious portion of the property is going to be collected via a series of deep sump catch basins with oil water hoods or scuppers on both the building and the canopy. That stormwater will then be conveyed into a proprietary storm scepter stormwater quality unit located approximately here before it is discharged into an at-grade stormwater management basin where we will get recharge back into the groundwater. And as required under the stormwater management guidelines, we will comply with all of the standards set forth, and we will be reducing the runoff rates from the property under, when you compare the post-development to the pre-development condition. Again, if you've had an opportunity to review the drainage report that was provided, you'll see how the system works in its entirety, what the reductions in runoff rates are, and how we meet each of the individual standards as required under the stormwater management guidelines. And with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions the commission or members of the audience may have.
Okay, we'll start with the commission.
How far up?
We're going to start with the commission, and then we'll open it up to the public.
All right, very
Okay.
good.
Are there any questions, comments from the commission?
Can you just open up a plan? 'Cause I'm assuming there's other sheets besides this one, right? I don't know.
I have
Cute.
to do
Yeah.
While you're doing that, we are in receipt of a DEP file number and comments. Did you receive this?
We did not.
You did not. Okay, well, it's been assigned DEP file number 151289. The comments are dated November 9th. And they pertain to stormwater. The stormwater. My understanding is that the project is going to be undergoing a peer review. That includes the stormwater management design and calculations and overall system. So that is, do we have a schedule on that?
They're hoping to actually have comments tomorrow at the planning board meeting, but we'll have to wait and see
Okay.
whether they're able to complete the review.
That's being done by the planning board?
The planning board, yes. So because we don't have a city engineer right now, when the planning board application went to DPW wanted to have a peer review done since we don't have city staff that can review it at this time.
So basically, we're going to wait for that, among other
For the
things.
stormwater
Yeah.
piece.
And we do have jurisdiction under the local ordinance as well,
Correct, for the stormwater.
for stormwater.
But if there's anything you wanna discuss before the peer review, I think you should feel free for comments to pass on to the peer reviewer.
I'm looking for our stormwater expert.
So,
But, so the delineation was performed by Lucas Environmental,
Correct.
and can you remind me of the?
Was that?
So it was recent,
Yes. I believe it was within the last couple of months.
September.
I actually have a question about the state of photos. Is this like just leftover debris and sediment?
So one of the previous uses of the site in the past 10 years or so was there was some sort of natural gas tank. Help me, Jay, you were on the commission. Do you recall?
I don't remember what it was.
But they constructed an earthen berm.
Right, a temporary site.
It was a
that they
temporary
used,
facility.
And that's been taken apart and
Yep. And the house was demolished so long ago that I don't recall when.
So would that be removed?
So there's an earthen berm on the site.
Okay.
So based on your, do you see? So that's East Hampton Savings Bank,
Mhm.
and there's an earthen berm. Will that be graded out? Based on your proposed?
I thought I saw it on the,
There's a lot of grading.
I'm assuming that's
one of the drawings was
this in there. I mean, that was based on the grading, what it was supposed to be.
Mhm.
is that what you're seeing down back?
That will be graded out.
Okay. And are you familiar with the stormwater design?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at the boring logs for the time, and I'm wondering, okay, groundwater. What is the depth to groundwater in the area of the proposed basin?
I want
Or
to say.
what boring is there?
You can look at the detail of it.
Right.
Now our base is 178. And it doesn't have the groundwater elevation here, which would indicate that the design is well above 2 feet from the groundwater elevation, and I can confirm that for you.
If you could, that would be
But
helpful.
we would provide at least 2 feet of separation from
Mhm.
the bottom of the basin.
It looks like some of the borings didn't extend, at least 2 of the borings didn't go below 2 or 2.5 feet below grade, being kind of refusal.
Yeah, I know they hit some, what they assume to be some boulders out there.
I know.
So does anyone want to talk about scheduling a site visit?
Sure.
Yeah, we should
Okay.
do that.
So our next meeting is the 28th for context. That's right, yeah.
Do you have a proposed area for, say, snow storage?
Correct.
Do you have one on the plan?
Yes, shown, it's basically off to the right side
Okay.
of the parking lot, or the southern side of the site. There's 2 areas, one on either side of the sidewalk, shown going from Northampton Street up to the building. They should be, right where your hand is, yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if it was gonna be in the buffer zone.
No, we, made sure it was outside his buffer zone.
What are the soils like there? What's the soil type?
They were decent soils, conducive to infiltration. I'd have to look.
We looked into Situate, fine, sandy loam. Enosburg, fine, sandy loam. And so fine sandy loams for the most part.
And that's included in the drainage report as well.
Yep. All right, I'll have a chance to look at that sometime soon. What's on the east side of the park? So the development is,
It's the back of stuff off the west side of the industrial park.
Correct. Gas company's back there.
Mhm.
But basically, there's a fairly decent sized stretch of what is essentially the subject site.
Yep,
That's being left undeveloped.
yep,
You could see from the locust map there that the Cumberland Farms area is about 300 feet deep by about 280 feet wide. But the overall lot is significantly deeper than that. I think it's about 100 to 150 feet of green space or undeveloped space between where the edge of the Cumberland Farms development will be and where the existing structures that are back there currently are.
yep.
Actually, might be a little more than that, because that's to the property line, and then there's a little bit of buffer on the adjacent properties as well.
So your summary here talks about a total area of disturbance of 2 acres.
That's
But you
the
meant-
entire property that Cumberland Farms is looking at.
Okay, so it's being, but it's a single parcel of land right now?
It's, right now, the entire piece of land is about 6.7 acres. And Cumberland Farms is proposing, my understanding is to lease
Okay.
about 84,000 square feet of that 6.7 acres.
Okay.
There's been no subdivision plan before the planning board
Okay.
at this point.
Yeah, I'm just-
Hold on a second.
Is there any particular reason why on the larger parcel, the proposed development is the closest edge to wetlands?
My understanding, and I don't know for sure, is that like any landowner, the current landowners would like to ultimately develop the entire piece. So they're starting with the northern end, and my guess is as additional opportunities present, they'll look to develop the remaining piece. So they're looking to keep it to where they can maximize what Cumberland Farms needs and ultimately leave as much remaining land for possible redevelopment.
So back to possibly scheduling a site visit. The next meeting is the Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday. Which weekend is it? That weekend is difficult. What time is it getting dark?
It's
these
dark
days?
early, so.
Yeah, it's dark by 5. Okay. So, does anyone have availability this coming weekend? The 19th or the 20th?
on Saturdays, I'm only free early.
What's early?
I could do 8 on Saturday, but then I booked the rest of the day pretty much.
Yeah, I could probably do 8 on Saturday.
Do that.
You know, on Saturday? Okay, so Saturday the 19th at 8 a.m.
Would it be okay if I let the planning board know as well, and they could put it back on the same site visit?
Certainly.
If they're, the applicant okay with that, if I notify the planning board as well and let them know that there's a site visit scheduled?
Sure.
Okay.
Alright. So this time, are there any additional questions from the commission?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, what size storms are infiltrated versus discharged to the outlet structure, primarily? Because to me, it looks like the outlet structure is sort of like a level spreader onto an adjacent parcel.
Who owns that parcel?
I guess it's part of a larger parcel, but it would be subdivided off.
Would it be subdivided, or if they're
Or,
leasing?
Or leased off, I guess.
I would suspect, I don't know what the property owner's plans are, but the zoning prohibits more than one building on a property unless it goes through a planned unit development proposal. And since the only thing I'm aware of right now is Cumberland Farms, I suspect that even if it is gonna be leased, that they may split it off. But I don't know for sure.
So so could you speak to what storm event, what design storm event is going to be discharged?
I believe will contain at least up to the 25, I believe it's the 50. But we have capacity up to and including the 100-year, and you'll see from when you have a chance to review the report that we're reducing runoff rates for all storms up to and including the 100-year.
Mm-hmm. We have several situations in town where there are stormwater pipes discharging other people's parcels, and 20 years later now people are coming back crying.
Yeah, I know it looks, again, based on this plan, it almost looks like it is discharging onto an abutting parcel, but it's actually discharging onto the overall piece of land because of the fact that the Cumberland Farms piece does not project the full depth of the lot, and it's probably easier to see. This is the overall piece of land, this large rectangle. This is the piece being considered by Cumberland Farms, so you still have this piece of land here that is under common ownership to where that water will ultimately be discharged. And that's effectively where it's going under the existing condition today as well.
Are there any other questions, comments from the commission before we open that up to the public? Okay, so the public will address their questions to the commission.
I've got a few questions.
Okay, and then we will talk, we'll either respond, because it has to be within the context of the Wetlands Protection Act and the commission's jurisdiction. And if the question is not pertinent to our jurisdiction, it's up to Mr. DeStefano's discretion to address it afterwards, outside this forum.
Whatever you said is correct, I guess. All right, my question is this. Has there been any testing of the firmness of the soil to support the building? Would be my number one question. Who answers that?
Well, that's interesting because it doesn't
May I-
affect the interest of the act, but it is, so you're wondering about standard penetration testing?
Correct.
For
And
geotechnical
I say that
boards.
because I know that property like I know my son.
That's,
And
that's not necessarily a ringing endorsement, but okay.
I've seen what had happened to that property. It was a real deep, deep gully. And it was sand brought in because my brother was the one that owned that property. And I was just wondering, is the soil and the land strong enough to support number one, the building, and also the tanks that you're going to put in, which, as you said, are going to be 6 pumps, I guess. And you're gonna put in some heavy tanks, containers. Is that, will that support the building? I mean, I love Cumberland Farms. I just have a few questions in my own mind, which hopefully you can answer. So number one, was there ever testing done by you folks as to the firmness and a compaction of the soil? Because as I remember, it was never compacted. All the soil was dumped there. Many, many truckloads.
When was this? I'm just curious, when did this occur? When did this all transpire?
I'm sorry.
When was the fill brought to the site? If you had to guess, on a decade.
Now you're testing my memory. I want to say at least 18 years ago. And I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm not sure. But I want to say probably about that time. And as I say, there was never any rolling or compaction of that soil. But it seems to me that there is a method of testing compaction, right? By drilling down? I don't know.
It's a standard penetration test. We hammer down into it.
Yeah. So has that test ever been done?
It appears to have been based on the boring logs, but
My understanding is that yes, they've had an independent geotechnical consultant come out and do the necessary testing. And we also know, at least what we've been told, is that the building, the residential structure that was formerly on the property was on a regular shallow spread foundation. But at the end of the day, Cumberland Farms will take whatever steps are necessary to make certain that the soils are conducive to whether it be a standard foundation system or if they have to get unique because the soils require something different, whether it be piers or something fancy like that, they'll make certain that that building is going to be secure along with the canopy and the underground storage tanks. The last people who want to come in and spend $3 to $4 million to have the site redeveloped are Cumberland Farms. So they'll take whatever steps are necessary to make certain.
That's sort of why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, they do that at every property, so that's not an issue.
My next question is, are you gonna be higher than Route 10 as far as construction is concerned? So that there is a crown in the road of Route 10. Is the water going to then flow into your yard, or are you gonna be higher or lower to divert the water? Is that a good question?
great question.
Thank you. Which committee do you want me to sit on? Which chair?
Right where you are.
I know, I don't have the time.
Right now, at this point, right here within Northampton Street, that elevation is 189. Our building finished floor is 189.6. So our building finished floor is gonna be about 7 inches higher than the crown of the road, but we've designed the site so that there are 2 ridge lines, one here and one here. So all stormwater runoff from this point back will flow into the site, and the rest of the stormwater from here and here will flow back into the road and continue as it does today.
Into my place.
Well, it's flowing there now, it's what's allowed, or what's basically what's flowing within the limits of Northampton Street.
Because as I understand, though the pipes, pardon my voice, but the pipes on Northampton Street are so fragile that about 13 years ago, when I wanted to connect to the stormwater drain to drain off some of my property, they wouldn't let me. The the state engineer said that the pipes are so old and fragile that they cannot take any more storm runoff.
Yeah, and we know typically DOT doesn't allow new connections, so we have designed this site to basically take all the stormwater generated from this piece and take it, put it into the basin, and then ultimately back to where it's going today, which is to the rear portion of the site, not to Northampton Street.
Rear portion of the site, does that mean, whose property is that? Would that be Industrial Drive?
Well,
You're talking about this area.
well, this piece, this is where our basin is, and then, again, if you look at, well, this plan has it here too. This is the Cumberland Farms piece, and then there's this piece, which is still part of the overall parcel. So runoff is gonna make its way here and then ultimately back to where it goes today. So that condition remains unchanged. It's flowing there now, it'll flow there after the development as well.
It's not front to back, it's,
It kind of does this.
right, but what I'm saying is, this is the subject parcel, or this is, how does the subject, it's rectangular.
This is the entire 6
Yeah.
and a
So
change piece.
this is all area of the subject parcel that's not being developed by Cumberland Farms, and that's the direction it's going? So they're not right up to the property line with it, there's however many feet.
It's about somewhere in the order of magnitude of 100 feet.
Okay, I have one more question, and I don't know whether it's answerable by this committee or not.
Okay?
What about, sewer? Where are you gonna connect on a sewer line?
Unless it's in the buffer zone, it's not our jurisdiction, but if you'd like to answer it
Yeah,
quickly,
where are you gonna
you're
connect?
welcome to.
Because,
The existing property owners provided sanitary sewer at the extreme southeast corner of the property. So right now, the proposal from Cumberland Farms is to run across country with a sanitary sewer line here and connect into the existing town system right here.
on Northampton Street?
No, it's actually set back off of Northampton Street in the southeast corner of the
Why don't you
property.
connect to Northampton Street?
We don't believe there's sewer available within Northampton.
Yes, there is.
That's not the commission's jurisdiction.
Oh, yes, there is.
We can talk about
Your
that.
There may be,
information.
that could be for another
You
discussion.
can come, Eddie, we have planning board tomorrow night, same application, you can bring your questions to the planning board.
Yeah, but this is a nice committee.
They're nice, they're a nice group of folks,
I
but
like
it's
them.
not their jurisdiction.
I like every one of them.
I know.
I think I wanna join them
Okay. Come tomorrow for the planning board.
when I get rejuvenated.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions at this time?
I was wondering about the snow area. She brought up a point about where the snow is gonna go.
Could you just confirm, or identify yourself for the minutes?
Yes, Laura Cunha.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We know you.
Basically, we're proposing this area here for snow storage. We'll keep it off the site. These are fairly small sites, so they don't generate a ton of snow. But I live in West Springfield, so I know there are certain points of the year where you get a fair amount of snowfall. And what Cumberland Farms does at every location is once the snow that they have to keep on site becomes an issue where it's blocking parking or it's creating visibility or circulation issues, they have it trucked off site and disposed of that way. And that's traditionally what they do almost at every location, because here in New England, these types of sites are pretty small and you don't have a lot of room. Fortunately, in this instance, we do. This is a fairly large lot when you get down to gas station development, when you put it in that perspective. So we've got this area here, we need to maintain this for access to the basin. And then as indicated, we don't want to put anything over here because it's within the buffer zone. And we certainly don't want to put anything up in front along Northampton Street because it ultimately ends up impeding visibility.
Right, that's why I was wondering where, because I didn't know if it was gonna be too close to the road.
It'll be set back, again, probably 100 feet or so.
Is that a sidewalk, the gray?
Yeah, we were asked, and we had initial conversations with town staff to put a pedestrian connection from Northampton Street back to the building.
And just for clarification, that's all outside the buffer zone?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other
I
questions?
have one more question. Is Cumberland Farms buying the whole 6 acres but only developing a portion of it?
I will verify, I don't know if they're buying anything, but let me confirm that. I don't know if it's gonna be a lease or if they're gonna subdivide out this piece for themselves, but by tomorrow I'll have that
And
confirmed.
that's not
Why
a
are you having
wetlands
this-
question.
Why are you having this meeting if they haven't bought, they
They don't
haven't
have to buy the
purchased?
property, they have the property owner's signature on the application, so we can hear it.
So that can,
Yeah. This permit doesn't give them permission from the property owner to build, it would be a determination, a statement under the Wetlands Protection Act as to whether or not it met the standards or didn't. And it bears no authorization
I
otherwise.
don't have an amplifier. You and
It
I
doesn't
gotta
matter.
sit down and talk.
It doesn't
So you
matter.
can explain this whole thing to me. No, I'm very, very pleased and very happy that Cumberland Farms is coming into East Hampton. To be very honest with you, we need competition, and Cumberland Farms is going to do that. And I want to thank whoever I spoke to of your firm giving me some information too. Very good company.
Thank you.
All right, my compliments are over.
Okay,
Time to go home.
well, with that, are there any other questions, comments from the commission that have looked through this time? So we have
There's a
a,
bigger copy of the UP letter if he wants to
oh,
take that.
do you want it? We can
Yeah,
also-
that'd be great, thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
I don't know,
Um,
that was really sent to Cumberland
went-
Farms direct. But,
It looks like he copied Bowler Engineering, but it may be
yeah,
paper.
if it's stuck in the mail, they sent it on the 9th and 10th with the holiday, who knows when it would've got to us, but clearly not by today.
That's, all right, and I'll make sure that these go to, through our planner to the peer reviewer as well. So we agreed to a November 19th, 8 AM site visit, meet at the site.
And I assume, if I may, you don't need a representative from Cumberland Farms at the meeting, this is just for the commission and the planning board.
Correct, so someone who could speak to the site design and layout? Oh, you mean, does someone from Boulder have?
Well, do you need someone at the site visit? I know I can't be there, but
It
I
would be
can make
helpful.
arrangements to have someone.
I think it would be more helpful, because if anything does come up, then we can't discuss, we can't deliberate at that time, but we could ask questions. And then we can take those, it would be helpful if someone were there to receive them.
Okay.
And also, perhaps, someone familiar with the design could better orient
Yeah,
attendees to the site.
if I can't get someone there,
Just let us know.
I will let you know,
Okay.
but we'll do what we can.
Okay. So, would anyone care to make a motion to continue this to our November 28th, 2016 meeting at 6 PM?
Motion to continue.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, continue to the 28th,
Thank
6
you.
PM. Thank you.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Are you caught up and settled?
Yeah.
Okay. Snap those.
It's a puzzle.
We're all watching, even the people at home.
Ah,
It's gonna be a nice building,
Thank you.
yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So, next item on the agenda is a request for certificate of compliance for Town Beach. We have still not received the as-built marked up from Mr. Smith. So we'll just continue beyond this unless you have any information on the plan, Gus? Okay, So, I don't have any updates on the spill response, other than they were continuing to respond to the spill. I have no updates regarding, Mr. Gall's properties or 47 Carillon. I do have an updated letter, apologies to all. Great to have an admin. If everyone wants to sign the updated dated letter to, David Boyle regarding Northampton Street. We'll give this to Jessica and it will go out by certified mail tomorrow. Right?
What was the final date that we put on
I bumped it out again
To-
because
it? Do you know what it is?
December something.
Don't worry, you're gonna be able to see what they need to see at this point.
They can always ask for an extension. And the most important thing is that they not do any further disturbance.
What will be the first compliance deadline?
I can tell you when I get the letter back. December 5th, maybe, but let me confirm. Thank you. December 12th.
Right. We said in the last minutes that, yeah, we signed it, and it was gonna be November 28th, so.
We had to modify that.
Over the modifications.
Adjusting the date.
No, but why? Didn't we sign this last week? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
I don't have it with me.
Oh. So there's no difference in what we're making them do between this person and
No,
this person?
other than we adjusted the date for lack of
Okay.
administrative need.
Just gonna have to explain this somehow. In case anyone sometime down the line is curious.
Thank you. And Jessica's gonna help with the follow-up. Okay, any updates regarding open, oh, you're still typing, sorry. So then,
Next. Okay.
okay, any updates about the orchard? Okay, or other open space?
Well, yeah,
Okay, we have updates about the orchard.
yeah, so, I don't know when it was, like 2 weeks
It
ago?
was
3 weeks
Not this
ago?
past Sunday, but the Sunday before.
It was like October weekend, I mean, the Halloween weekend, I think. Yeah, it was that one. We went out and looked at the wetlands, it was like Julie, Nick and I. And we came up with this little
Yeah.
sketch. It kind of just has the, like the open area, it looks like
Okay.
the dinosaur, if you see the little tail there.
Oh, yeah, Brontosaurus.
Yeah, right. But there was also some mysterious berms in the back.
I
It's like
think
a red maple.
discussion of they're like, they're parallel.
Yeah.
Remember that came up like a sweat lodge or something during last year's
The
public
Conway
sessions?
School
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
back when I was coughing up a lot. But there was definitely, some information
Okay.
discussed about that. They're not archaeological or historically significant in a cultural archaeological sense. They're
Back to me
definitely
now, yeah.
more of a modern, let's build this sweat lodge thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in between them, there was hydric soils with redox, and it was a red maple forested area, so.
Is it contiguous with,
Uh,
is it included in the BBW boundary or is it isolated?
I couldn't really determine it. We didn't really know where we were at times, like if we were
Yeah.
too far beyond or like in the forest, and we didn't even know if we should continue going, cause maybe we should come up with a plan first and then decide what we actually need to delineate, or if we just wanna do the whole property and say, you know, like, I don't know where we're gonna put the things.
Right,
so-
and that brings up an interesting point, which is if we venture, if they are isolated wetlands, then
Mhm.
we would have to be cognizant of other regulatory programs
Yeah.
if we were to discharge treasure fill material.
Didn't we ultimately decide though that it kind of U'd and connected at the, what would that be, the southern edge?
I guess it could have, cause it did come
I
out,
think it kind of
there was this
wrapped
little like
around.
tail area, and then maybe it went up that, it was like that stream between those pines or something. So maybe it does actually go up, if we confirm that's better, but if we went out there with a GPS, I think it would be more accurate,
Okay.
which I could get a GPS from Mark. It's just a matter if we wanna do the whole property, we just wanna go, should we just go back and do what we did? Pick up those flags, or like, I don't know how to go.
So you're talking about in here someplace?
Yeah,
No.
cause I could go back and just pick up all the flags that I hung. Where I could venture further north or out this way, just to find there's more wetlands out there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of thought for now we're focusing on the orchard area up here.
Yeah.
But, which not to say we would be interested in what was down there for future things, but, what's this little triangular untreed looking area here?
Actually, I don't think we ever made it that far, did we, Holly?
I think it's just focused on the area of the street,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, I know we walked it, I don't remember if it looked like a wetland, or it was just
Mhm.
grass.
I didn't know where we walked the first time.
Whether it kind of zigzagged or.
Yeah, I know there was
When we
an open
crossed.
space, but that was where we had a bunch of the dead trees too.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's what we probably want to check out the most,
Yeah.
just in terms of the orchard plan.
Okay.
You know, maybe, is this a parcel line, or is this just
Area
a
of interest.
whole line, or property boundary? So that's probably their property over there,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Was the potential
Thank you.
trail network meant to go throughout the entire parcel or just the orchard area? Do we know?
That's up to us, really.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, probably the longer it would go, the better, you know, and combined with other parcels if they were willing to do that, but,
Yeah. Cause if they were trying to connect over here, it definitely makes sense for us to go in this area.
Jess, do you need something for us in order to put out the tree project to bid?
I need to draft an RFP, and I need to run that by the procurement officer, and it has to be crafted in a very specific way, so, now that I have new staff starting today, my workload hopefully will lighten up a little bit, and I can start to focus attention on some of these outstanding issues that have been sitting on my desk for a while, so. I have another RFP that I have to craft for the housing partnership, so I can probably try to tackle both of them at the same time, so.
Thank you. So maybe we could aim for early next year,
That seems to make sense, yeah, just
given where we are on the calendar, the holidays coming up.
and the scope of that RFP would be tree removal,
I think that's what the commission decided.
yeah. Using funding that we have from,
Yeah,
Well, I think
decision.
it's my suggestion you ask for a match for CPA, I mean, this is
Mhm.
definitely a CPA eligible project, so the CPA loves to be matching and leveraging other funds, so if the commission put in a portion from their own account and then ask for the remainder. So,
Mhm.
but the timing issue though is we have no idea what this costs.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to go to the commission to ask, to the CPA to ask money And you can't really put it out to bid until you have the money in place.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg. So we all have to best guess estimate what we think it might cost for tree removal. And if the bids come in higher than that, then we're gonna need to go back to the CPA to ask for additional money, or you supplement with your own funding in order to move that process along.
And
But-
then back to why we're only here.
Yes.
I talked to the tree warden about it, and he couldn't really give me a good ballpark estimate of what it would cost, so.
We're leaving the stumps, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But there was
There's
also,
a
I
lot
think,
more disturbance.
if I'm remembering correctly, you wanted to use some sort of fungicide to prevent, there was gonna be a treatment process in addition to just taking them down, but treating the remaining trees so that they don't become diseased. And so again, I have no idea what the cost is for this type of project, so if anybody has an idea, that would be helpful. We need to go to CPA with an actual line item budget, and they will ask a lot of questions, so that budget needs to be solid in its numbers.
So the CPA application should get started on.
I think where the commission can help is if you could figure out what the cost of this project would actually be. If you can reach out to your networks and the people that you know that do this type of work and get basically from a pro bono source an estimated budget that you can go to the CPA with. And then once you have the CPA money in place, then the RFP can be released. You can't release an RFP unless the money's already in place.
So what would you decide? It was how many trees were taken down and then how many?
Close to
other trees?
50.
Wow.
I have Jay's map in my office, I can go grab it really easily if you want me to. But I think it was, I wanna say I counted about 50 trees.
I think it was 25 to 30 to be removed, 4 good trees and 4 maybe trees that would be pruned and.
I think there were more circles on the map than that though. Maybe not.
Well, those are the ones that were evaluated. So there's more trees that were not evaluated.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
And then the green ones are the fungicide green ones?
The green ones were trees to
The
save,
ones.
Just to say the.
and the yellows were maybes that couldn't save. But we didn't analyze every tree, so we said take all the red ones, so we didn't, it gets over 50 real fast.
Why do we know why some were selected to look at?
As we were just wandering through the woods,
Okay.
and I was just taking GPS locations as we were walking, we didn't kind of map a pattern. Just kind of made a loop down through. But you can see that we had that one marked on
Yeah,
that.
I wish I had this map on it.
Okay.
But,
Well, take that one. Take that
yeah,
one.
yeah, awesome.
Are there certain companies that you put the project out to bid to? Like, would it be helpful?
We just use that, it's a bid for services, so it goes out on the register, any company can bid on it. We don't have any specific companies that we work with, it's an open bidding process. And whoever gives us the lowest price is the company we go with. Unless the references check out horribly, and then we can pull their bid. But that's what the commission can be doing, because I certainly don't have time to do that, is to try to figure out what this would cost. So that would be a huge first step to get an estimated budget from some company or some individual that understands what needs to be done. And including the spraying as well. It's not just the tree removal, it's the spraying.
Also, Russell could help with the spraying. He'd be able to do a guesstimate on that.
So who is going to be pursuing that?
I can do it. I'll find out from Russell if when we did the site visit, he didn't necessarily have somebody that he would recommend, but you can find out.
I can try to get some numbers for tree removal.
So say if we came up with an average assumption,
Yeah.
X dollars per tree,
I mean, there's plenty of
plus
tree
10%.
companies in the valley.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
it'd be a matter of just making it full. CF, CL,
What's that?
CF.
name of trees.
Oh, yeah, Jason's brother,
Pioneer Valley.
K&J Tree Service. Yeah.
We just had a tree trimmed on our house and the CF
see if Roberts says anything.
There's also K and J. That's not good.
I mean, we usually use like anywhere between 20 and 40,000 per acre for tree removals, which,
For like DCR projects?
yeah, are dam projects.
Are you talking big trees?
Well, we're talking steep slopes and bad access and everything. Like with a,
May not be completely representative, although,
I mean,
The
it's a-
access would be tricky. in a way.
okay.
Colleen, we can be in touch with each other so we're not calling the same places.
it's like a low ground pressure feller buncher, all they need to do is drive up to it and grab it, chop it, and they just pick it up and put it down, and it'll go pretty fast. It's probably only a couple days of work. It's a very expensive equipment. So I don't know, I don't think it'd be much more than 20 grand. But then I don't, you know, the spraying, I think it's kind of nebulous unless we know exactly what we're asking them to spray for. I mean, I guess my bigger concern is evasives once the
Yeah.
canopy gets so heavily modified, you know.
And there already are some, there's multi-photos and.
I always think that's a separate, a separate issue. Unless you want to include that, that just makes the price go up even more. But I think being specific about maybe a fungicide, you know, what the acceptable options are. I don't know what there are for options, but that way it's more consistent, hopefully, with the response.
And because it is adjacent to wetlands, it is possible for them to use.
As long as they're a licensed applicator and legal to use in Massachusetts.
Do we have any obligation to be careful what we use because of the neighboring orchards, which I think are organic, right?
I work with Russell on it, make sure that, you know, he's bought into it.
Good
Because
with
he's the
yeah.
person who's telling us that we need to do that.
Okay.
He knows.
They're organic, but they're not certified
Right.
organic. So they use organic practices, but they never use that threshold. But I understand the intent is to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, he was the one who had told us. to
Okay.
do that.
Okay. All right, so, I'm ready to move on. All right, we're gonna go on to compliance updates. Hall Street Extension, Jillian Estates, DEP file number 151269. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
So we've received a bunch of stuff from you,
Yes, you have.
including a request for partial certificate of compliance for lot number 5.
Lot 5, yes, please.
Okay, so that will be on our November 28th agenda, so we can do a site visit.
And I have the copy of it along with the as-built plans to give you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to also speak to you about lot number 6, which is 30 Paul Street. David was gonna try to get here tonight, but couldn't. But I did a report for today on that lot, which is the last lot within the 100-foot buffer zone for the project.
Which lot again, sorry, Mark?
Lot 6.
Okay, lot 6.
Lot 6, which is 30 Paul Street.
Yeah.
So, what we found is that in the rear of the property, we have one 12-inch maple, 12-inch white pine, which is loaded with bittersweet, just choked out the whole tree. And that is located, this is lot 6 here, that is located approximately right here on the other side of the silt fence. If you can, it's hard to get pictures in the forest, but I tried to get as best as one of them I could.
Yeah, no, your description helps. That is a very
Yeah.
large, robust, bittersweet
Yes.
vine, training fish.
And it's right behind the silt fence. And then there's another area which is kind of right in here on the site.
which has saplings, which are all bittersweet entanglement. And then and there's probably, I don't know, it's probably like 10 by 25 foot area. And then once you get back further in the woods, you get into the Piscoma Conservation Lands property, and you know, it seems like just this little corner is where all the bittersweets come in. So, we'd like to have a conversation with the commission about removal of the bittersweet.
Bittersweet or the trees?
And the tree, because the tree you can't save, there's no way you're gonna get rid of.
And what about over here?
And then the saplings, yes, we'd like to get rid of the bittersweet and the saplings in that area, because they're just all choked out too.
Kill it with fire.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so, not doing that, but.
I don't think that, you know.
Yeah, no, that, clearly there. So in order to, we need to do a site visit for the partial request for certificate for lot 5. Can folks piggyback on the 19th? Maybe?
There's a game almost on
Are you okay with possibly not seeing both? Or coming out here on your own? Okay, so, can't give an exact time?
Yep,
Because we
okay.
have an 8 AM site visit.
Okay.
And then, so we'll say
19th.
it's gonna be between probably most likely
Right.
between 8:30 and 9, I would guess, ish. So,
Okay.
we'll look at 5 and 6, and if you could, mark out with flagging or paint or something.
Sure.
Obviously, that one tree is gonna be clear, but the limits of what you're hoping to remove,
Sure.
outside the silt fence here.
Right, I think once you see it, we can spray it with orange paint, but you could pretty obvious all these.
Yeah, just the exact, you know, the
Yep.
limits, so that it's clear to
Okay.
everyone what we would be doing.
Will you be removing the stumps or just cutting
No.
the ground?
Just the ground.
And any treatment for bittersweet?
And I think, ongoing treatment, we'll have to talk, to the new owners about that and trying to, take care of that.
Okay. All right.
Will the plan, so it'll just be to treat the bittersweet, but not to replace, to try to plant something else?
Right now, no, I hadn't talked to Dave about putting something back in its place.
I was just wondering if the bittersweet.
Poison ivy.
It's native.
Yeah, luckily,
Plenty of
there's
it
poison
right there,
ivy
right?
It is in the trails on the side over
Yeah.
here, which is a problem for the trust. And,
Keeps
they
people
were,
on track.
yeah, right, yeah, right. So, okay, so I will,
Do you mind if we skip ahead to Mark's next topic briefly?
Whatever.
Thank you for being so patient.
all right, good.
Okay, so we're gonna skip ahead to Williston,
Wilson, okay?
just so we can let you go
Mhm.
home.
No, that's fine.
So you provided a weekly report dated October 28th, and then you provided an update saying that there's not been any additional work since that time,
Correct.
and no additional work will be performed until spring 2017.
Correct. With the exception of removing the silt fence.
So I think we'd want to
And-
get out there before that
Right.
happens?
Right,
I've been out
Well,
there since then.
Okay.
Right, yeah, I think, a month ago's meeting or whatever, you would look at that and said that, you can stabilize and you authorize the removal of the silt
Right.
fence.
So,
Jeff just Wilson
haven't
just
done it.
haven't got to it yet, so
so.
I reminded Jeff about it, and he said he would try to get it done before snow flies.
Too late.
Yeah, right. Before, it really
There's
gets
snow
done.
in your pictures, Mark.
I know, yeah, right, exactly.
So I guess with that in mind, I would want to know, I would want a follow-up report to when that happens.
Yes,
But then I'd be willing to suspend reporting until activities commence in the spring.
sure. And Jeff's working on trying to get some mulch and for the trail and so forth, so it's, trying to get product for the trail and finishing up in the spring, so.
Did you get that part of that suspending?
Yes.
So will someone make a motion to suspend the regular reporting requirements, following report of the removal of the silt fence and models of the bridge crossing
So moved.
until additional work commences in the spring?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay. And obviously, if there are any problems
Any
that come
problems,
up, please
right.
let us know.
Yes.
Okay. So we will see you, will we see you on the 19th?
I'm not sure if I'll be there or David or
That's
both,
all right.
but I'll work out that with David.
Okay, and then we'll see someone on the 28th, or we'll just,
Yes.
we don't have, I mean,
Yeah,
it's up to your
I may be
schedules.
here, so,
Okay.
I mean, not, but yeah, play that
Your
one by ear.
regular Monday night.
Yeah,
meeting.
right.
You most weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
And you provided a packet of information about Logan.
Yes.
But that was just today.
Yes,
Okay.
so I provided our first construction inspection log for today. The erosion control barrier, it has been installed up to about 300 feet.
So,
No,
should I
right,
look at it
yep,
there?
right, take a look at it.
Thanks,
So, I don't know if you want another copy of it, I brought a
I
copy.
actually didn't print that one.
Okay, I'll give you a copy of that.
Thank you.
Along with that packet, there's a bunch of stuff in there. In accordance with the order of conditions, there is the signed SWIP. We have our EPA filing and permission to start construction, so we're all set on that, which I believe I
There
forwarded
it
to
is,
you.
October 18th. You did, thank you. Contact numbers,
Contact numbers for Mr. Logan.
construction sequencing, this is
And
excellent.
construction
Mark, thank you.
sequencing, that's required in the order conditions.
It's almost like it's supposed to happen this way.
So just a brief discussion about the sequence of the work,
Mhm.
because, you know, everyone's familiar with that site. Dave has put in, his men have put in, finished it today, the silt fence on both sides along with fiber log, which is the first section, crossing the wetland to get to the more open area, which is approximately 300 feet from O'Neill Street.
That's essentially the driveway, right?
The driveway area, roughly, correct. And then he's gonna work, this fall and until we really get inclement weather coming in, to bring in fill material, because the grade off of O'Neill Street is a 2-to-1 slope and drops right off. So he's gotta take out a section of guardrail and work his way in. And then over the winter, he'll put up the rest of the fiber log, because the rest of it's just fiber log. Cut the trees, not remove any dirt, but just get in there, clear and cut the area, and then start up in the spring, weather permitting,
So,
with it.
go ahead. I have,
So-
okay. I have a question here.
Yeah.
The vegetation within the installed erosion control barrier shall be removed. The hydric soil within the wetland fill area shall be removed and saved for later use.
Yes.
Where will that be stockpiled?
So that's gonna be what we're gonna do is stockpile that in, because it's really the only area on the site. This area here. So I talked to Dave about, because we wanna keep that hydric soil from this area. We're gonna stockpile it in this area here, in the driveway area for temporarily. And then he'll encase it or surround it with silt fence.
Can you cover it with poly as
You
well?
could- Okay, sure.
Just help keep it from,
Spreading out?
yeah,
Okay,
losing the good stuff.
yeah, right. So this is where on the plan it kind of switches from both silt fence and fiber log to just fiber log for the rest of it. So that's what he's put in.
What diameter walls are you using?
Those are the,
8?
eights.
Okay. photos make it look very tidy, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, he's, you know,
He's done this.
he's done that before.
That helps.
Luckily, you know, so, you know, he had to cut, you see, because that first section was so thick,
Mhm.
he had to cut some more trees and to get even a piece of equipment in there. But he kind of left it, the middle section, where the trees are up, and kind of stockpiled it until you get it cleaned out. So, one of the things is the pre-construction meeting.
Mhm.
So I don't know if Jay's gonna handle that, or commission's gonna come out, or how you wanna do that?
I don't mind doing that.
Okay, yeah, we can get you a copy if
I
you
just
want
want
our.
to just check and make sure I have, the current plans are the same as what you
Yes.
have here.
Yes, current plans.
So you have the plans in your order.
Yeah, let me take a copy of the signed order. Or can you give me a set?
Oh.
Can you give me a set of plans that you have?
The plans, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when, I mean, you said you were
So-
gonna go out and inspect stuff tomorrow, but that might be too short notice.
Yeah, right, yeah,
No problem.
So, I'll leave it to
Okay, I'll work out with Mark.
you to schedule it.
Sure.
Just-
Right. Just wanna make sure I give you the full set here. The sheet one. Okay, here's the complete section. Yeah, you just get a hold of me and we can set up a time.
Okay.
Maybe you know, Thursday or
Yep.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Yep,
Friday,
that's fine.
whatever.
Should work.
Great. Alrighty,
Thank you.
and that's all I have.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you, Mark.
Yep.
All right, Lathrop, all right, please join us.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm Barbara Walbert. I'm the chair of the Land Conservation Committee at Lathrop. I am not management, I'm a resident, but I'm the chair of this committee. And with me is Sharon Grace, who is also a resident and a member of the committee. So we are here to report on our progress. The habitat management plan that was the basis, you'll remember, because we've seen this, that was the basis of our,
Oh, yeah.
of our,
Oh,
right, this was the original habitat management plan that was the basis of our work. And you'll see that what it calls for is to remove invasives along Bassett Brook. It's a 3-year project. Politan Ecological Services is doing it, that's their map. And then just recently, we sent this report about the progress that we've made on that plan. And basically what it says is, we're doing what we said we would do and it's going fine.
This is great. Appreciate the detail,
Yep.
especially while they're the photos of them doing the work.
Yeah.
That's-
Yep, it's pretty awesome what they do there.
Yeah.
They're very good.
That's clearly a spot application. That must be Bassett Brook? When did we have that much water?
Not, quite a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, there's a great.
Actually, that brook actually runs fairly strongly even in drought.
It's got a good watershed.
Mhm, Yep.
So when the blue was mid-August?
Mid-August, yeah, it is, and, I submitted the report by October 31 as required, but since then they have been back to do a little bit more
Great.
mop-up, so.
Okay.
So, we're done, so I wanna put this in the larger picture, because we have ongoing work here, and we're gonna do, you'll see this again. Basically, so this is something you haven't seen. It's a map that we use in our own place. And you'll see Florence Road over on the right-hand side. So our property is off of Florence Road. The black shows the boundary of our property. We have 175 acres, give or take. And about 25 of those acres, some acres, are in the city of Northampton, so you see the city line. And you'll see our homes and the inn right here. So we're basically most developed on the east part of the property. The west part of the property is wooded with some interspersed fields, and it joins up to other protected property. APR, that whole Park Hill area, that's what's behind us. And there's a lot of forest, there's some fields, wetlands. And you can see that what we're doing is to move from about the middle of our property over to the left, to the west. So the green part, which you originally permitted for us 2-3 years ago, is the wooded section. It has some wetlands in it. And that's basically now almost free of invasives. It's quite astonishing what we've done.
So
We're very proud of it.
it should be, that's an impressive task.
The yellow part is where we're working now, and that's what our amended order calls for and what the report was about. So the yellow part is along Bassett Brook. And then the red part is what we haven't yet done, but we will. That's our plan. And if you look here, this map shows our property in relationship to the whole of Bassett Brook as it runs down into the Manhattan. So this is the bigger picture yet. So you'll see the black outline of our property up on the top. And the blue dotted line is Bassett Brook, which runs down to the Manhattan. So you see that our property is the missing link of unprotected property. The green is all the protected land here. We are the missing link, and
Oh, there is a CR that's supposed to be on your property.
absolutely,
And that needs to be taken care of.
absolutely.
And I hope that the lands committee can sort of push that forward.
We are
'cause
pushing it very hard.
It's outstanding,
Yeah.
considerably.
So we're the missing link, but I think that eventually we will not be the missing link. It will be all green, all along the Manhattan there. But in the meantime, while that works its way through, what we're trying to do is to make sure that our part of Bassett Brook is as clear of invasives as we can possibly make it.
Excellent.
So that's our goal. And we're raising money from grants, and you will hear from us again on that. We've already gotten some, and we raised quite a lot of money from our own residents, so there's a lot of, we have about 150 or so residents on that campus, and we have raised matching funds from our residents. We have 23 members on our committee. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of commitment. So that's what we're doing.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good.
Anybody have any questions?
No, there's time. Okay. That was very thorough. And I appreciate the maps. That's
Yeah.
tremendously helpful.
All right. Very good.
So thank you both for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
All right. We received a request for extension, permit extension from David Boyle, A to Z Storage for the project at 184 Northampton Street, DEP file number 151276. The permit, the order of conditions for that work is set to expire January 13th, 2017. But Mr. Boyle's already anticipating that that's not sufficient time. So he's requested a 2-year extension to allow for the completion of work and site stabilization following construction. Work is already, they're in the middle of the project. So, and it's a buffer zone project. I see no reason not to, but this is the property kind of in that section of Route 10 that we've been talking about tonight, so. Little Bear.
Was it permitted a long time ago and they just started the work? Is that why
It was
there's?
permitted a long time ago, and then they got, it expired, and they got a new permit
They
in
changed the
early
design.
2014, and the design changed a little bit. But again, it's all buffer zone. It's pretty much redevelopment, so. So that's where that stands. So would anyone care to discuss this further? Would anyone care to make a motion to grant a 2-year extension for DEP file number 151276?
Go ahead. I'll make a motion that we give a 2-year extension to 184 Northampton Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So this permit is now extended, 2 years from date of expiration, which puts me at, my brain not working,
1/13.
2019. Okay. Thank you. So this also needs to be sent to David Boyle. Same request, scan it for us, and
Certify now. Make it one big old package.
if you could, I'd be more than fine with that, as long as the number gets reported on the board. Okay. I don't think there are any other updates. Pleasant Street Mills.
I'm waiting for a letter from Rob Lebeck. I have
Okay.
everything else, but that's the only piece I'm waiting on.
Okay. Nashwanik Mills, nothing. Oxbow, nothing. Nothing going on with Nashwanik Ponds, veg management. We received a letter postmarked November 3rd, dated October 31st, to whom it may concern. I plan to sell my property on Pomeroy Street, map 182, parcel 38, by the end of November. This property is under conservation restrictions. Sincerely, Christine Coe, 315 Mountain Road, Holyoke, Mass. I feel like we've talked about this before.
What parcel is it in?
18238, map 182, parcel 38. 182, 35, 37, 36.
In that general vicinity.
Yeah. But it's under CR, so I'm assuming this is noticed because we have
Notice.
right of first refusal.
Yeah. But it's gonna stay as conservation land. We're
Right,
just
the
selling it
CR is
to
not
them.
being listed, so as long as the new owner is aware.
What's the address again? Or is it-
Pomeroy Street, map 182, parcel 38.
So what's that mean when it's under conservation restriction? They just can't do additional buildings
There are use restrictions,
Yeah.
And you can't remove it, can
or
you? Or are there some that you can?
I don't think it's protected in perpetuity, but
It is.
it could be removed, but the mechanism, like you can
Well, the
take
state-
land out.
You have to go to the state legislature. so-
Right, it would take an act of
Okay.
legislation. So the odds of it being taken out of
Are
conservation are slim, because in order for it to come out, it has to be for the public benefit, right? Like a water main trustee problem.
How does that help anybody?
I did that.
But they couldn't like build another house on that property, so maybe it's under
Not within the
You
area of
can't
the
build
CR.
another house if there's already a house on it. You
Okay.
can't have more than one principal building on a lot.
It's interesting. Good idea.
And no shared driveways, right? Is that true? Tricky?
Unclear.
Unclear, okay. All right, MACC, somebody help me. Yeah, open, please. I don't think we have access.
So I'd like to look.
Okay, dues for 2018. Did we just do this?
2018.
Fiscal year 2018.
They're just letting me know what the dues are.
$409.
It's going up every year.
Value. Does anyone want to make a donation to the Connecticut River Watershed Council?
I've got the envelope.
I've got another one.
Anybody wants to see their annual report to see
No.
whether or not you can just put invest in this money?
We
Put
received.
this rubber band in the envelope. So it's stamped.
We have received another letter. Bertha Fournier, 1 Burt Street, dated October 28th. To whom it may concern, I am planning to sell my 2 conservation lots off Strong Street to Matthew Killock Jr. and his wife Lynn of 97 Pomeroy Street. The lots are map 179, parcel 26, and map 182, parcel 35. I wonder if that's the same entity purchasing map 182, parcel 38.
What are those two things?
The two
Map
lots.
179.
179, parcel 26,
Yeah.
and map 182, parcel 35.
35. So who's that from?
From Bertha K. Fournier, Fournier,
Fournier.
of 1 Burt, B-U-R-T Street, East Hampton.
Fascinating.
I just wanted to let the commission know that tomorrow, the city is gonna be submitting a grant, for a, shared conservation agent with the town of Southampton. So we'll keep you posted if we're actually funded, but the grant is to basically work out what the agreement is between the 2 communities, how many hours, what's the scope of work, what are they getting paid, how's the benefits all gonna shake up, all the sort of administrative side. So, we're working with PVPC, they've written the grant application, and it will get submitted tomorrow, so we'll keep you posted.
Any,
We'll need to hire somebody to give them work so that we.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
these are just decisions. Oh, these are from.
I'm just kidding. I was thinking about the time it would take to get somebody up to speed.
So that's the previous sign-in sheet.
All right, when you were locked out of your room.
9 St. James Ave, where's that?
It's off of Main Street, isn't it?
St. James Ave?
Isn't it one of those dead ends off?
I know, but I can't think where it is right now. Here we go.
Please do, because they provided lots of figures, which is great, but.
Oh, is that the CBA?
Drawing.
Yeah, that's what I could do. It's, something, yeah, it's, from the planning, ZBA. Oh, wait, we have.
Wilton Brook is right behind it.
This one's nothing too interesting.
So is it building permit?
It's I think it's a, request to put a shed on or something like that, or
And
an
there's an
addition.
special permit application for accessory apartment at 77 Strong Street.
This is the same one.
Addition of 1 bedroom with bathroom and small kitchenette. Oh, at the corner of Sterling Drive. Are there any wetlands there? I know we've,
I don't know, it's tough to find.
is the corner of Strong and Sterling. We looked at that.
Wilton Brook is
Well-
right behind St. James Avenue. So
Is
I don't know
it-
what number that was.
9.
9. But it looks like this backs up to other housing lots.
Yeah, Wilton Brook maybe it's on the other side of the But which side of the road is the Wiltonbrook on?
It's away, it's a dead end street, so it goes down dead end.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, just
Yep.
setting.
So it's that way.
What does that mean?
Down or east.
So what, this is Main Street?
Yep, Yep.
Okay.
yep. Yeah, so at least a couple lots at the end of the street.
Yeah,
So-
it's not right at the end, so.
So the one
No.
is Strong Street 77.
Yeah, can you look up 77 Strong Street, please?
So right, no comment on it?
Yes.
It's the one between Park and, no, Park. It's Strong is the first intersection on the bike path.
Oh, depending on structure.
Oh, right.
No, Strong Street's nowhere near the
And
bike
what is
path.
Strong?
South Street?
No, Strong Street's over at the south end of the plains, right? Southeast?
Connects off Park Street?
So, yeah, so it's the intersection of
Oh,
Stormwater.
Oh,
Management.
yeah.
Almost before Southampton.
So Strong and Sterling.
See, another jumping up, right over there.
That's like development.
You guys make this more exciting.
Suburban development.
Yeah.
Did that qualify?
What happened?
Is that
Sorry.
right?
Somebody just.
It's a pretty weak rubber band.
You just heard me go, oh.
Yes, she's making funny noises.
Okay.
All right.
Little.
What else do we have to do?
Yeah.
I move to adjourn.
Okay.
This is a satellite view of Sterling, so it's his house right there.
So is the stream anywhere near there?
I don't see it, no.
What's that right there? Is that just?
I was trying to determine what that was, but. Is it a fence line?
No.
Motion to adjourn.
Does it look like there's anything?
Well, there's a funny fence line across the street.
What's that? I thought it was,
That's a shadow from a tree.
I thought it was closer to the intersection with Strong, on that four-way intersection, that there's that stream that comes from the substation off Gun Road. No?
That's on the other side of the street.
That's a problem.
Go there. No, wrong way.
You drive where you wanna go.
Oh, no, it's up here. Yeah, so there's that stream that comes around through here. Remember that?
Yes.
That's up, okay, no jurisdiction. I feel better about that now. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? We have correspondence here, but I think this was here before, regarding the town beach, not boathouse. And we thought I made it clear that we wanted an as-built plan with the comments on it, because that's
What's the date on that?
19th of September.
Yeah, that's what we were reacting to originally.
Yeah, so, I'll try to follow up. Unless you wanna,
What am I asked? Is it Terry Smith? Is that
Yeah.
what you want me to do?
can you email Terry asking about a marked up record drawing / as-built for Town Beach to support the,
Hold on, a marked up,
The awning yard.
marked up as-built,
yep,
okay.
to support the September 19th letter with the deviations,
Letter,
so that we can make a motion.
can you give me that letter?
Yeah.
That's my file, so I can have something to reference. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
I wanted to mention one other thing when we were talking about open space. This came across my desk. There is a Massachusetts Recreational Trails Program grant that's opening. I don't know if anyone knows anything about it, but the deadline is February 1st. And you can get up to $100 grand.
Okay, can you find out more about it?
Sure. There's also I won't be able to attend this, but on December 8th, which is a Thursday, from 6 to 7, there is a sort of informational process understanding meeting in Worcester.
Sorry, I can't make that.
Yeah. But I'll see if I can find out more information and just, should I just send it
Just
around?
email it out.
Okay.
What kind of meeting, an informational
Yeah,
process?
it's sort of about the process and what does it actually say?
It's like the grant information.
Oh, it's actually a
Oh,
workshop to discuss
right.
requirements, review award process, and tips for success. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Opposed?
Tuesday. Okay, filing. Are we still recording?
Should have.
Sure you got all these extra.
Oh, we have to keep them in.